It's interesting. I joke that I used to help people abstain from addiction, and now I help enable addiction. And my clients would be so proud of me now because they taught me all you have to do is give them just one for free and you get them hooked for life. But what I didn't realize then that I now realize is that, business is really all about networking, and it's all about building relationships. And I love doing that as a therapist. That's your role. It's not even about the work that you're able to do in a therapist-client relationship is based on the trust and safety that you build with your client.
Behind the review, dig deeper too. Behind the review.
This is awesome to be in the same room as a business owner and one of my colleagues, but also a consumer and very active reviewer on Yelp. I think it's weird, you guys, having everyone, I can touch you. Normally I'm on Zoom.
Yeah.
But we're here. Samantha, why don't you start and tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll hop over to Rachel.
So I am Samantha Behrens, and I am the Yelp Queens Community Manager. And part of my job is to uplift local businesses, but also part of my job is to just be a regular consumer. And this is one of my favorite businesses. I've been shopping for a while. Every time I walk in, I get the chocolate-covered gummy bears.
My name is Rachel Kellner. I am the co-owner of Aigner Chocolates, which is one of the oldest chocolate shops here in New York City. And we're located on Metropolitan Avenue. And the chocolate shop has been in the exact same place for almost 93 years now. I know.
Oh my God.
It makes you young and skinny. Look at me.
90
Right? I'm like Benjamin Buttoning it, right?
And you must not eat any of the chocolate. I mean, that's
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely
that's
not.
the
Not
result.
at all. Not at all.
We have some here. I haven't even tried it. I waited to do it. when we were together.
I can't wait.
bring?
I don't even know what's in there. I did not pack
didn't
that
pack
box. No, my staff did. But I think it's the no nut box because I think
Okay.
the nut
Oh,
box is
okay.
out there. So
You're gonna have one soon?
Of course I am.
Oh my God. There's an
What are you
Oreo
gonna
in
pick?
there.
Ooh,
Those
right there.
are
Get the Oreo.
so
I've had those. That's good. Is
decadent.
that the bark, Rachel? Is there
yes,
this?
that's cookies
Oh,
and
look,
cream bark.
We have 2
Yeah.
layers here, Samantha,
Oh yeah.
so don't worry.
There's a lot of
more.
chocolate.
Well,
yeah.
they also make seasonal bark
Yes,
that I enjoy.
yes.
And there's a fig
Yes,
pistachio.
right now, fig and hazelnut right now.
Okay, but you
We have a
did
pistachio and mango bark over the
that
summer.
one is delicious.
Yeah. So what do you think?
It's incredible.
Right?
So, 93 years?
Yes.
I need to know the journey of
Okay,
that. Obviously,
yes.
it wasn't you.
Yes. What?
Oh, it was you. 93. I should have known.
Vampire.
Okay, so this is the way the story goes. My boyfriend at the time was driving down Metropolitan Avenue. He went in to buy chocolate for me. There was a for sale sign on the window. I know you can't make this up. He met with the owners that day, brought home the financials that night. We had a very colorful conversation that wasn't very nice. And then 4 weeks later, we bought the business. And then 4 weeks after that, we opened 10 days before Halloween of 2015. It's wild, right?
This is why I don't find this stuff out in advance, because I
Yeah.
can have a genuine
Yeah,
reaction to
yeah.
how crazy
Isn't
that
it?
story is.
Yeah. So, and what makes it even crazier is my husband's a pastry chef. He was one of the original owners of Little Cupcake Bake Shop. So he was in New York Magazine because he got sued by Buttercup Bake Shop. And Buttercup, the owner of Buttercup, was one of the owners of Magnolia. So it was like Magnolia, Buttercup, and then Little Cupcake. And you know how they say like no press is bad press?
Well.
It was amazing for them, and they did incredibly well. They expanded. They're in multiple locations all over the city. My husband sold to his partners, and he opened a Spanish tapas restaurant, which is how he and I met when I was a social worker. And I had this idea that food was therapy, that there was something really healing about food and therapeutic about it. And of course, because he liked me, he's like, oh, that is such a great idea. We should go on a date and talk about this. And fast forward 6.5 years later, Aigner Chocolates has really been the manifestation of food as therapy. And it became really clear during the pandemic because we ended up donating over $30,000 worth of chocolate during the pandemic to the community. And so I have found a way to integrate my background of therapy with my husband's, pastry background. And,
Wow.
and here we are.
That's incredible.
Right?
And it's a wild story to how you meshed your backgrounds into something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary, though.
Right. I mean, it's interesting. I joke that I used to help people abstain from addiction, and now I help enable addiction. And my clients would be so proud of me now because they taught me all you have to do is give them just one for free and you get them hooked for life. But what I didn't realize then that I now realize is that, business is really all about networking, and it's all about building relationships. And I love doing that as a therapist. That's your role. It's not even about the work that you're able to do in a therapist-client relationship is based on the trust and safety that you build with your client. And so that's what I do out in the world. And I think I'm received differently because I'm not a typical business owner.
Yeah. And everybody knows Rachel. Everybody. Other business owners, customer, everybody knows you. I don't even have to say, I'll say the shop name and they'll be like, oh, Rachel.
I've also probably given away way more of our profits than I should because I'm overly generous when it comes to chocolate, and I literally bring it everywhere. Yeah. Because if you go anywhere without chocolate and you tell people you own a chocolate shop, they start looking
where is it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there are so many directions I could go.
I know. Where are you going?
This is why they say you should do your research, but I'm telling you, it wouldn't be as fun if I had known this in advance.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Samantha describe the business for us.
Okay.
From the outside, when you walk in, give me all the visuals.
Okay. It's right in the corner.
Okay.
Okay. You have a beautiful storefront. Thank you. And it has the signage, but around it is like foliage and vines, and it's just it's magical. It is magical. Then you walk in, it's even more magical because you're surrounded in chocolate. And then to your left, right, as soon as you walk in, there's a little barista area. There's that right at your left, and then lines of chocolate in the cases. And I usually go there before to get my nieces and my son a little either egg or something. I usually end up eating it, obviously. And you guys do a lot of cute little themed chocolates, so I do that for gifts as well, like a Star Wars chocolate or Batman. My son's name is Bruce, so I get him Batman chocolate a lot. So
cool.
It's really cute.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Rachel, what about the business prior to your ownership has stayed the same? And what are some of the biggest changes you've made visually or from a product perspective?
Yeah. Great question. Great. And that was a beautiful summary of the shop. So when we bought the business, my, boyfriend, now husband at the time, felt that the selling point of the business was the recipes. So when we bought the business, we bought all the recipes. So if you are in your 80s, you are eating the same marzipan now that you ate 80 years ago. And so we kind of felt that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there was a reason that there was such a strong loyalty and with our customer base. And so we wanted to keep that. We started working a lot more with the community and have developed really strong ties in the community. And so I started a business alliance on the Avenue as well.
Wow.
And then also I've done a ton of PR. So we were just in the New York Times. We've been on CBS,
do you
NBC.
Still write your own
I
press
do.
releases?
I write my own press releases. ABC, we spent Valentine's Day morning with Cindy Shu at CBS down the block. And then we were just written up in the New York Times a week ago. We were on New York One a few weeks ago. We were on Channel 11 WPIX with Ben Aaron about a month ago. So that was also something that we've really taken to another level. And I don't think they did any of that with the previous owners.
I think a lot of business owners think that to get that coverage, you have to spend thousands of dollars on a PR firm. What would you say to them?
So we did that and got nothing. And then I started doing it myself. And I built those relationships. And now it's to the point where I'll literally text my media contacts and say, hey, this is what's going on, and I'll pitch them stories. And when I realized two things. Well, three. Number one, the media like to hear from business owners themselves, not PR companies. So I'm sorry to say this, PR companies, but I think you might be going the way of the dinosaur. Number two, that you're making their jobs easier by reaching out to them, you're actually doing their job for them. The other thing is we own a chocolate shop, as you all know, and there are so many terrible things happening in the world that the news couldn't go on if they didn't have some fluff, lighthearted pieces. And so we're always able to provide that. Like, for example, we're now in JFK Airport at Hudson News. Yeah. And at LaGuardia. And like, that's something that I can reach out, because like, say someone wants to talk about businesses post-COVID, and we can talk about what happened in the candy and chocolate industry and the relationship we developed through the Queens Chamber of Commerce and how they introduced us to Hudson News. And now we're there, or I also notice, and this is a piece of advice I give people, when you've got momentum, you have to keep going. So what happened was we were named the #1 chocolate shop in New York City by Time Out New York. So what we decided to do this year, because we've been named #1 chocolate shop in Time Out before, I got a banner and it's bright white and then the text is in black, and so everyone can see it driving down the street. And then we ended up in the airport. So then I started reaching out to media contacts and said, we were just named #1. Now we're in the airports. Valentine's Day is coming up. Why don't you feature us? Mother's Day is coming up. Easter is coming up. And then we got more and more press. And then it just like the press behooves the press. So like,
no, that's good. I think the takeaway there is
Yeah.
like, you have to be willing to pitch yourself.
Yeah.
And part of that means you have to be able to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of business owners have the
Yeah.
struggle, the roadblock.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back to you, Samantha, and talk a little bit about all these different revenue streams that Rachel's talking about and all the different ways people can interact with Aigner chocolates and maybe how it's consistent through them. Like, you like to go in, but you obviously see this coverage and it's them, it's their personality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rachel and I kind of connect on many different levels, not just as a consumer, business owner, but also as young mothers. On the way here, she was like, we're going to start a subscription service. I'm like, freaking genius. I was like, I already know 3 people I'm going to buy this for.
I love your little give it away free and they'll keep coming back for more.
I know.
Yeah.
How do you, Rachel, think about that? Because when I hear diversifying revenue, I mean, of course, I'm like, duh, that's what every business owner needs to do.
Right.
But I think so many get bogged down by the brick and mortar, focusing on foot traffic, and they just forget every other opportunity.
Yeah. Fortunately and unfortunately, my husband and I run the business together. And when it's one person operating the business, it makes it exponentially harder to focus on different opportunities. Even like today, for example, this morning I was speaking at Queens College at a business breakfast in the business school. This afternoon, Elmhurst asked me to come and speak at their annual hearing because they want me to talk about the relationship that we've had with the community, right? So like, this is all like PR stuff, right? But if I didn't have my assistant, my staff, my husband, the chocolate staff, I wouldn't be able to be here. And so for the first few years, was I there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day? Absolutely. I mean, I was telling Sam, we were talking about what it was like after giving birth. My son is 4.5. I brought him back to work with me 10 days after I gave birth.
And I said to her, you are insane.
That's such a business owner move, man.
But can I tell you the postpartum that I went through?
I'm sure.
And then we went right into COVID and we were trying to keep the business open. So, these things don't just happen, right? Like with the New York Times, I've literally been emailing them every few months for 6.5 years.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
so
that is the behind the curtain that everyone forgets about. It's not one pitch.
No.
And it's not one different revenue stream.
Right. Yeah.
It's thinking about it all.
Right.
And thinking outside the box.
It's about saying yes. It's about recognizing that you don't know where something is going to lead, right? Even with Sam. I mean, there are a lot of times people reach out to us and we say no because we literally don't have the bandwidth. And I remember that Sam reached out. We sat at the Candy Kitchen table. We had this very candid conversation, you know, and then we just jive, we just fit. And I think like that's why some people get along and some people don't. That's why some people go to certain businesses, have certain friends, you know, it's the energy that you feed and find off of each other.
And to piggyback off of that, Rachel just puts out such a good energy too, not even through the chocolate, but just to the community.
Thank you.
You just put, like, you could tell, this is why I think the squad is the best and my borough is the best, because we do have a real sense of community that you don't see in Manhattan, you don't see in Brooklyn. Yeah. Maybe the Bronx comes the closest, but we really just care about each other, especially when something bad happens.
Yeah.
Especially during a pandemic. Like it's a lot, but we come together and you could see it through chocolate donations or even just art classes or classes in the park. Like Queens is really special, really special. And we have special places such as the chocolate shop here. I want you to talk about Elmhurst. I think just engaging with the community is just such a big part of having a successful business. It's not only just another form of advertising, it's good karma. You're putting good out in the world, you're gonna get good back, and it's just you just need to talk about. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So during the pandemic, kids were going on rainbow hunts. They were drawing pictures of rainbows. This was all over like the Facebook parents pages. What they would do is kids would draw pictures of rainbows and they'd put it in their window. And it was really the only activity that was safe to do, which was to go out on walks. And so we were open 2 hours a day, every day during like the height of the pandemic. So my husband would stay home with Jake in the morning. I'd go to work. It was the quietest drive to work minus the ambulances. It was so insane. And then I'd work for a few hours. I'd had all my calls forwarded, and then I would come home and Mark would go to work. And, you know, the city shut down in the middle of March, and all of our Easter production was done at that point. And we were looking at everything in the showroom, and it was sad. You know, we weren't letting customers in the showroom. I was literally unlocking the door, helping the customer from the front door, wearing gloves, wearing masks. The moment they'd give me their order, I'd lock the door. The key is still bent from all the times I was unlocking and opening that door. And I was driving home, and I was looking at the rainbows, and my husband and I were saying, what are we going to do with all this chocolate? The great thing about chocolate is you can melt it down, so there's not waste, really. But we had already spent the money producing the chocolate, you know, packaging the chocolate. And so we obviously knew Elmhurst Hospital was the epicenter of the epicenter. They're only a few miles away. And so we had this idea, and this is just how my husband and I are. We kind of just bounce ideas off of each other. And so we said, what if we do a rainbow bunny exchange? What if we ask the kids in the community to draw pictures of rainbows with messages of hope to frontline workers, and in exchange, we'll give them a bunny pop because we had so many. And so the goal was to collect 100. We collected 315. And if you go to Elmhurst Hospital right now, on permanent display, they made a Rainbow of Rainbows mural.
Oh.
And then we donated Harvey, our 3-foot bunny. And he has now become a Easter tradition. So every year, so this is the 3rd year we donated Harvey.
Me too, don't.
Yeah. And then during Omicron, which was just December of last year, we did Flower Power. And the goal was to collect pictures for the pediatric units. And we said our goal was to exceed our our Rainbow Bunny numbers. Yeah. So our goal was 316. We collected 1,503 pictures of flowers, and we donated 1,503 flower pops.
Yeah.
I really thought I was like holding it together today. And I was kind of like, oh, it's so cute that business owner cried in my one interview. But I was also like, oh, I'm so glad I held it together. But I'm not going to lie. I consider it good content when I cry. So we did the thing. That is so incredible. And what it makes me think of is all the groundwork that building community requires before there's payoff.
Yeah.
Or before you can maybe like measure the impact of what you're getting back. How do you and your husband navigate that? How do you decide when to give away chocolate and when to really say, are we cutting into our margins?
Right.
I mean, you got to pay attention to the dollars and cents at some point, right?
Right. So it's a really, really good question. And we're working on spreadsheets around that because I think that we haven't been paying attention to how much we've been donating. You know, right now we're focusing on hyper local. That's really where we're focusing. So, for example, we sponsor the Forest Hills Youth Athletic Association. So we sponsor the soccer team, we sponsor the basketball team, and we sponsor the softball team. And they're all literally in our backyard. We just did a fundraiser for the daycare in Forest Hills that my son attends. You know, Queens Center for Progress, it's an organization in Queens. Someone reached out to us. We get a lot of requests for donations. And unless I know them specifically or I know their organization or they're close by, we just can't do it because we can't say yes to everyone. I mean, it's impossible because then we will go out of business. The other thing is, too, we're very fortunate. Forest Hills, you know, is a fairly affluent neighborhood. And the reality is in business, you need to make money. You need to make money. Otherwise, you're going to be out of business, right? And so the more that we're able to grow our revenue streams, the more it gives us the ability to give back. And that's really what it's about, right? So for example, there's a Children's Day in the Forest Hills Gardens. Most people know, if you know about Queens, that Forest Hills Gardens is the most affluent neighborhood in all of Queens, right? So I said to my husband, someone said to me, oh, there's a Children's Day. You guys should do something. And I thought to myself, you know what? There are people that live down the road and have no idea we exist. And these are $2, $3, $4, $5 million houses. Those people probably have the bandwidth to place corporate orders with us. And so the reality is that if we, you know, set up a table 2 or 3 blocks away from us and we donate gummies to an event and someone hears about us that doesn't know about us and sees the goodwill, you know, that we have, and they place a corporate order with us, you know, they're placing an order with a business that's constantly finding ways to give back to the community, you know, and that's really the name of the game. That's the way that you can balance like running a business and understanding that your revenue needs to exceed your expenses, but also recognizing that, you know, there are some people say, oh, I want to do this and I want you to give me a really deep discount. And I'll just say, like, I'm really sorry. You know, if that's how much you can spend, you know, our donation budget is at capacity. This is what we can do for you. But unfortunately, you might need to go to another chocolate shop that's able to accommodate your requests. You know, we're a high-end chocolate shop and we don't pretend not to be.
It also doesn't sound like you close the door on those opportunities, right? It's
We're always
like,
meeting in the middle.
Yeah. And education. Like, we can't do this event, but maybe in the future.
Yes, absolutely. I always leave that door open.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Rachel, I wanted to bring it to you to talk about the team. Even earlier, you mentioned you have the chocolate makers, you have the people who are working in the store, dealing with your customers. How do you make sure they carry out that same feeling, emotion, approach that you and your husband bring to the business?
Yeah. So that is a constant, I don't want to say challenge, but it's always something that we're talking about. You know, our staff typically, our front of house staff stay for a year or two. You know, it's not a lifestyle, like a career choice to work in the counter. So we understand that our staff are with us for a period of time. You know, when we hire them, we do set expectations around, like, this isn't just a summer job. The learning curve is really steep. And also, our staff know about my background, you know, and I'll explain to them, you know, when Samantha's walking into the store, right? She's probably either in a good space or a not so good space. That's right. Because I mean, it's one or the other. And if you're in a good space, it's wonderful, and that's great, being in around pleasure and joy and seeing, tasting, touching, smelling the chocolates, only going to be elevating that. And if she's not in a good space, this is going to be her reprieve. This is going to be the thing that gives her a little boost, that's giving her some hope, that's giving her some joy, And so I want all of our customers to feel cared for, to have their needs met in the same way that a therapist is there to meet a client's needs. Having all of your senses being triggered in really positive ways. And, I don't spend as much time out in the showroom as I used to, but I do make an effort to go out there to subtly observe my staff, to engage with the customers. And I think the same thing about parenting as I do, managing staff. The best way to teach is through modeling. I can say whatever I want, 100%. But, as soon as someone comes in that I know, even if someone I don't know, hi, how are you? Can I help you? Would you like a sample of chocolate? Is there anything that you're looking for?
And that radiates too to the customer. A lot of the businesses that I do work with have been around for years. And it's because you care about the customer. And that shows. That really does show. And it shows through the product. It shows through the service. It just shows. And who wouldn't want to go back to that business?
How do you translate that online? How do you share that enthusiasm digitally?
Yeah, that's another good question. So, we have transformed our website multiple times. And, each iteration feels more like what it is we're trying to convey. I think the thing about chocolate is people rather see, taste, touch, and smell it. So our online sales are not what I think they could be. However, I think that people rather come into the store than shop online.
But what I like about like what you're talking about is you are focusing on that in-person experience because it's what most people want.
Yes.
But you're not doing e-commerce because it's not as successful as you would want it to be. And that is where a lot of business owners miss the mark because they start to feel like, oh, I'm doing this. It's not really the way I want it to go. But those people might never walk through your door. And just by having the option on the website to purchase, you're helping yourself.
Right. And also with all, I'm 38. My husband is 50. He might kill me for sharing this. But, I'm not technologically savvy with Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and all those things. However, and that's not our target demographic, that younger generation. Our target demographic is, a woman age 30 to like 75. But we needed to hire a marketing manager and we needed to go live on Instagram and finding different ways to interact with every demographic. And then you've got like the newspapers, right? Where I might have a consumer who doesn't go into the store, doesn't want to shop online, doesn't know about Instagram and Facebook, but reads the New York Times. And so I was just able to reach that person. So it really is, it goes back to diversifying. And also like, you don't know if something is going to work. And I think that we live not in a society, in New York City, in a place where everything is so instantaneous. And it takes time to figure out, and it takes mistakes, and it takes a lot of money sometimes.
And patience.
Yeah, and patience to be able to figure out, where am I going? Where do I want to be? How do I see us? What's working? What's not working? And continuing to reinvest in the business constantly.
And evolve.
I was going to say, and be okay with evolving and not that every decision is set in stone. It's like even you said about the website, I think sometimes people hold themselves back and they don't put the website up until it's perfect. And it's like, well, what the heck?
Right. It'll never happen.
Right. So you have to be okay with choosing something, moving that direction, and switching it up if it's not working.
When there's a bad review, that like when people aren't happy, they want to go and talk about it.
What should my consumers who maybe aren't active on Yelp be doing when they're out in the world to become better reviewers and support the businesses in their community?
Pictures. We have the greatest gift where we have a handheld device that we could literally record everything around us. So I went to get my makeup done today, and I was telling them that I came here because I went on Yelp and you posted pictures of the makeup and described everything in caption, and it was perfect. That's why I came here. And that's the first tip I give all the time. Pictures, captions, everything, because that's how you're going to get the most word out. Then outline your experience. I always put how my food was, how my product was, how my whatever was, how I was treated when I walked in. If there's some constructive criticism, the best thing I do is when I go to a restaurant, I always make a note about the bathroom.
Yes.
You never know.
Yes.
Never know.
Never know. Also, do they have a changing table? Is it kid friendly? If you're going to a very fancy place, does the bathroom reflect the fancy place? I'm sorry,
like
that
that.
matters to me.
I like that, yes.
So little details like that people might not know about or might oversee, but that adds to the experience as well. So I like to put those in as well.
Talk to me about how you and your husband look at reviews. Do you read them? You have someone read them for you?
I have someone read them for me now. We used to look at them, and when it's your business, it feels so personal. And I do agree, listening to you share that having a bad review makes it a little bit more real, right? Like, for example, I'll say to a customer, and it happened not too long ago, someone came in and like the batch was, I don't know, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't, and they came in and they told me, and then I gave them something for free. And you know what I said? I said, thank you for coming in, because you could have just stopped coming. But instead, you decided to come in, you decided to let me know, and I really appreciate the feedback because I can't get better. And so I think that's what's important about looking at these reviews, is being able to discern what's accurate, what's just an angry person. If someone clearly like opened the account and only has 2 or 3 reviews, I discard them. I do think that it's important to recognize that everything can't be perfect all the time, right? And I'm not going to be improving as a business owner, as a leader of my company, if we're not hearing what everyone has to say. But yes, at this point, we do have someone else reading the reviews. If there's anything that is hard to respond to, it obviously comes to us, but we are very fortunate. The majority of our reviews are positive, so they're really easy to respond to. And I like to respond to as many reviews as we possibly can. And you're right, it's important for the consumers to know that the business owner is engaged. And I think just to kind of go back to one of the questions you asked before, one of the biggest challenges that business owners find is working, that challenge and balance of working in your business versus on your business. And it's so tricky.
That's a great way of putting it too.
And yeah, it's definitely not. I can't take any credit for that phrase. I've heard it a million times. In and on.
I think that's from the E-Myth.
Yes, the
book
E-Myth.
E-Myth.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. And I think that that's the hardest part. And look, the other hard part is that I think that all of us get in our own way, and that if we each get out of our own way, we can be brilliant. Like one of the things that I look at is there anyone else in my company that can do business development? No. Is there anyone in my company that can do PR? No. Is there anyone in my company that can build culture? No. So I have to do those things. Is there someone in my company that can respond to an email? Absolutely. Is there someone that can create a, marketing email on MailChimp? Absolutely. Is there someone that can post on social media? Absolutely. And it's learning how to set people up for success. It's learning how to help people grow and develop these new muscles, it builds empowerment. And every time I let go of something that I don't have to do, I give another person an opportunity to rise and to grow. And why should I take that away from anyone? Because I've been given those opportunities.
And also, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but ever since I became a mom and I delved out of how am I supposed to be a working mom and the mom I want to be at the same time, I became even more empowered. I became even more like, well, I have to do this for my family. I have to do this for my son. So this business has to succeed. So I'm going to do everything possible to make that happen. And I'm going to teach my son how to do that so he's successful and is nice to people and puts good out. And I look at him all the time and I say, just do good. Just do good.
And I think breaking that cycle, you know, with men in the world, right? Like you and I have a huge responsibility in that we're raising men. And what kind of men do we want to raise? My husband cooks and cleans. I do not, you know? And yes, I just had the opportunity to spend 10 days with my son, and I'm thrilled that I got to do that. But I told him last night and this morning, Mommy has to go to work today. And I brought him breakfast home from my breakfast, and I'm going to show him pictures of being here, how powerful and awesome and superwoman-like his mother is, and so many women are.
Behind the